All right, so many of you know I've been single for like super long time. Not because I like necessarily being single, but it's been God's plan for me. And it's been really hard. And there have been there have been 2 times in my life where I've had like a pretty serious boyfriend. Well, first one was in college, and then a few years ago. And I was like, this is it. Like when I was in high school, I'm like, I'm gonna go to college, and I'm gonna meet my husband, we're gonna get married, and now it's all gonna be like perfect. And so I met my college boyfriend, I was like, this is it. I'm following my plan. I'm gonna get married right out of college, and everything's gonna be great. And that fell apart. And so then I was single for a long time, and it was really hard on me. And then a few years ago, I was dating a guy, and while we were dating, I was praying for him and about us, and I saw like a 2-snippet picture of what our marriage will look like our wedding. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the one. And I was very excited. And then 8 months in, he's like, I need a break. I'm not ready for this. You care more for me than I do you. And I was crushed. I mean, crushed. Because I was like, what? Wait, what? God, this is supposed to be it, right here. And I was not myself for a long time. Like, you guys know that I walk everywhere. And usually I'm jaunty, like, I'm booking it, I'm moving. And I remember about a week in, I was like plotting. I was like, I still need to walk because, I like French fries. And so I need to walk. And so I was like plotting, just like through town to get my walk in. And I would my habit is I come home from work and I change my clothes if necessary, and I go for my walk right away so that it's done. And I remember I'd be walking home and I'd be like, well, it's 4:45. I can't go to bed for another at least 4 hours, 5 hours. How am I gonna get through 5 more hours of this day? I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can sit in this pain, this much pain, for another 4 hours. I just wanted to sleep through it. I just wanted to go to bed and wake up when I was all healed and not feel that pain. And I remember Jill and I went on a trip, my best friend and I went on a trip to Minneapolis in our quest for 50 states. And we're out shopping, we're at Mall of America, and we're shopping. And she's chatting, and I'm trying to talk, and I just finally said to her, I said, I am really trying hard to be normal here. I am putting forth all of my energy to act normal. And I just can't do it. I am so incredibly sad right now that it's everything I can do to not cry in the middle of the stupid mall. I was just that heartbroken. And it was so hard. And we were just dating. We weren't even married. And still I was that heartbroken over it. And part of my heartbreak was because I had dreamed, like so many, I don't know if guys do this, but girls do this. Especially from the time I had that vision, I started planning our wedding. You know what I mean? Like, I have a box in my house. It's called Wedding Ideas. And when I go to a wedding, if I find a really cute invitation, I keep it. Because I'm like, ooh, when I get married, I'm going to take this piece from this, and I'm going to use this decoration. And I had started thinking about how great our wedding was and how great our marriage was going to be and how our kids were going to be and where we would live, and like daydreaming about how great this relationship was going to be. And so for when we stopped dating, I was like, all that was like gone. And I imagine many of you can relate to that, even if it wasn't a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. Whether it's a broken relationship, whether it's a lost pregnancy, whether it's a lost job, whether it's your kids don't grow up to be who you thought they would grow up to be. We all go through these seasons where we have this idea, this like, oh, it's going to be great. And then something derails that, and we see that that's not going to happen. And I was in a group recently, and a member of the group is going through a divorce, and she's sad and angry, as she should be. And another person in the group who's been divorced, she's like, this is the grieving process. This is normal. You got to go through it, and it stinks. And you'll get through it. We all do when we have to go through these hard times, but that initial time of loss is really hard. And sometimes it's all you can do to just act normal. It's all you can do to get through the day without bursting out in tears at work or at the grocery store or in the mall, because you're just using all of your energy to hold it together. And that's hard. How do we get through this? How do we deal with life when we're given a curveball that shatters all those amazing dreams that we had? All those awesome plans that we made, we now know are just not going to happen. And how do we deal with that? Well, there's this great story in the Bible of a woman whose dreams were so badly shattered, she's like, don't even call me Naomi anymore. That's not my name. Just call me Mara, which means bitter. Just call me bitter. That's my new name. I am so sad. I can just see her like me plodding as she walked, like crying herself to sleep every night. She was in such a desperate state of life that she said, don't even call me by my old name. You're going to call me Mara, which means bitter. And so I could tell you this, it's a book in the Bible called the Book of Ruth, and it's only 4 chapters long, but I can't read you all 4 chapters. And these people from the Bible Project, they're super good at telling the story of the Bible, and not only telling you the story as it happens, but like, what does it mean to the greater story of our lives and God's life? So I'm going to just use them. I'm just going to use their video to tell you the story of Naomi and Ruth. I love that story. I love that story because in the beginning of it, it looks hopeless. From Naomi's perspective, it looks hopeless. So that's why she's like, don't even call me Naomi anymore. I don't have any possible hope that this could work out. She's just call me Mara. That means bitter. For God has cursed. She basically was like, God's cursed me. God has made my life bitter. I went away full. She had a husband. She had sons. Everything was good. And then all of it came crashing down. And she couldn't possibly see a good way out of it. And even though she doesn't specifically talk to God, God is working in her life. And she's like, God's actually mad at me. She's like, look, God did this to me. God brought all this misfortune on me. And then later she says, don't argue or don't urge me to leave you or turn back. Ruth, who's her daughter, because Naomi's like, you guys, I'm going home to my family. If I'm going to be a beggar, I'm at least going to be a beggar in my hometown. And so she's like, I'm going to leave. And this is what amazes me. So there's the 2 daughters. She's like, you 2 go back to your families. You're young. I'm thinking, here are these 20-year-old girls. So imagine if a 20-year-old girl married a person who is, let's say a guy comes here from, say, Mexico. And she falls in love. She gets married. And she's like, oh, it's great. And then he dies. And then she decides to go back to Mexico with his mom. So she's going to go to a place where she's a foreigner, where it's not her culture, where she's the outsider, where she doesn't speak the language, and she's going to go, and it's not like even like her mother-in-law is like, let's go back to my family, they're going to take care of us. She's like, I'm going to go there and probably be a beggar. She's like, I'm going to move to Mexico with you and be a beggar. Can you imagine that kind of loyalty that says, I'm going to leave everything I know to go to a foreign place where there's no one I know, where I'm probably going to be destitute and poor. I'm going to do that for you. And I think to myself, why did Ruth do that? Why did she leave everything she knew, her whole support system, and go to this foreign place where she's pretty sure it's not going to work out? And here I think is the clue. She says, I'm going to go where you go and stay where you stay, and your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. I think that Ruth saw in Naomi, even though Naomi was plodding along, even though Naomi was feeling shattered at the moment, I think that Ruth saw in Naomi her connection to God and felt in her spirit that Naomi's God was someone that she wanted to be a part of. I think that's why she left everything she knew, was, yes, to be with Naomi, but really to be with Naomi's God. And then God works it out. God has this providential meeting of all the barley fields that she could go and collect. They called it gleaning. But basically when they would come through and harvest, they would drop some of it in their haste, they would drop some, and so they would leave it there for the beggars to come. And so in their haste, they left behind, of all the fields she went to, she just happened to go to the one where the single guy is. Now, Boaz must have had some money, because he wasn't like riding along in his John Deere tractor by himself harvesting barley. He had an overseer and he had employees, which tells me that Boaz had some money and some property. And so here's this rich guy who sees this foreign girl who's like a beggar picking up the scraps, and he's like, who's that? And God works it out. God works it out so that he ends up marrying her, and not only do they get married, but they have a son. And so in the beginning of the book, we've got Naomi who says, call me Mara. I'm bitter. All my hopes and dreams have been shattered. My husband and my kids are dead. I have no hope of ever having a good life again. And at the end, she's holding her grandbaby, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're so, like, think of like, when there's a baby, what does everybody do? We were at the festival last night. Someone came up, Earl and Dart, they came up with their grandbaby in the stroller, and everyone's like, oh, your baby, so cute. They're like, oh, hi, cute little baby. And everyone's all excited, and aren't you excited? And there's that like new baby like excitement. We end the book with that. So we start the book with shattered dreams. There's no possible way this could work out. And we end the book with, oh, look at the cute little baby, everything's great. And that baby became the grandfather of David, King David, the best king ever. So here's this woman who's from a whole other country, who's a foreigner, who gets to be the great-grandmother of King David. And if you've ever been around church, he's a big deal. And then King David becomes the great-great-great-great-grandfather of Jesus. So this foreigner who is destitute becomes in the lineage of Jesus Christ, our Savior. And that is the kind of God that we serve. He takes your shattered dreams. God is so cool. I'm looking at Facebook today real quick before I got ready, and there's this thing, it says a disco ball is made of a bunch of shattered mirrors. And so we take this thing that's been shattered and we put it together, and it's a thing that reflects light and brings, like, think of like disco ball. That I feel like fun and party. And what's a disco ball made out of? A bunch of shattered mirrors. And that's what God can do. He takes our shattered dreams, and he takes that art, and he makes something beautiful out of it. Because God said in Isaiah's a prophet back in the Old Testament days, he's like, I'm going to send somebody, and this is who he's going to be. He's going to be a guy who binds the brokenhearted, who proclaims freedom for captives, who releases people from the darkness, who proclaims favor and vengeance, who comforts those who mourn. He's like, this is the kind of guy I'm going to send you. That Jesus, that King David, I would even argue King David did this too, but really Jesus bound up broken hearts, proclaims freedom. If you are captive to your shattered dreams, if you are captive to this dark, terrible life, Jesus can proclaim freedom from that for you. If you're living in a darkness, if you feel trapped in a prison of all the stuff that hasn't gone right in your life, Jesus can bring some good stuff from that. He can proclaim favor when you have had nothing but like brokenness. He can get vengeance for you for all those who have hurt you. He's going to comfort you when you're mourning. When you are in the dirt, when your dreams have been shattered in your mourning, he's there. And he's giving provision. He's just giving a crown of beauty instead of ashes. When all of your dreams have been toasted and they're like ashes, he takes those ashes and he paints something beautiful with them. It says he gives you the oil of joy instead of mourning, praise instead of despair. That's the kind of God we serve. He takes, when you are moping and crying yourself to sleep because things haven't worked out, when your dreams are shattered, he takes that and he makes something good out of it. Because we know that God works for the good of those who love him. For all of those who've been called to his purpose. When you say yes to Jesus, he says, you're my kid now. You're mine. You're in my family. And nobody messes with my family. You're in my family now, and God makes it so that things work out for you. He takes those shattered pieces. He's going to make a mosaic of something beautiful. And you might not see it for a while. I'm sure as Ruth's husband and sons are dying, and she's sitting in this foreign land going, what am I going to do? She couldn't figure out a way that it could possibly work out for good. She thought she was going home to be a beggar on the street. But God worked through that. And through time, God works for the good of those who love him. But that takes trust. It takes relying on him when it doesn't seem possible. When it doesn't seem like you can possibly get through this, God works it out for those who wait on him and believe in him and his promises. I believe in God and his promises for me and in my marriage. I believe in God and his promises in every situation in this room that you guys are facing that seems insurmountable. I believe that God can bring something beautiful out of that if we trust him. And so this week I dare you. Dare is our 4 tangible things that you can do this week to try to bring yourself closer to God, to try to touch base with him. So you could light a candle and remember that, take that broken dream, light a candle for it. Thank God for being present in your future, even if you don't feel him, even if you don't have a clear heading, even if you have zero idea how it can possibly work out, light a candle and be like, God, I believe that you can do this. You could ask God, hey God, where are you bringing beauty from my ashes? What could you possibly do that's good out of this? Show me the way. You could either read Isaiah 61, that's that prophecy about he binds up the brokenhearted and freedom for the captives, or read the book of Ruth for yourself. It's only 4 chapters. It's not super long. And then one way we can engage others is to share one way that God has brought something good into a hard place in your life. Most of us in this room have been around the block a time or two. We've had a broken dream that has turned out. We've had something that didn't seem like it could possibly go well, turn around, it turned out great. And so we hold on to those stories for ourselves, and we use those stories to give hope to other people. That's the way we can share the hope and the joy of Jesus, is to remind people that God comes through. We've been there. And so hold for yourself, hold on. If you're in that state where you're crying yourself to sleep every night, hold on. He'll come through. And if you've been through that, look around for someone else who's crying themselves to sleep and give them hope that they'll get through this situation. And all of God's people said, Amen.